masters of the Nether, the dark legacy of the Warlocks. They were never meant to exist, born from betrayal, forged in green fire, and cursed to wield the power that unmade worlds. The Warlocks became living conduits of the most destructive forces in creation. They are masters of chaos, heirs to Gul'dan's legacy, and keepers of the forbidden flame. Before the first names of stars were ever spoken, before mortals could dream of fire or shadow, there was only the ordered majesty of the cosmos, and the chaos that churned beyond it. The Titans, beings vast and eternal, sought to bring harmony to that swirling darkness. They roamed the void in search of nascent worlds, shaping them into order. Where there was chaos, they built structure. Where there was silence, they brought song. But for every spark of creation they set aflame, there was something older watching, a truth that no Titan could banish. Chaos is patient, and it cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. In the spaces between the Titans' crafted worlds, something began to stir. Raw energy, wild and consuming, neither light nor shadow. It was the Fel, the manifestation of entropy itself. It devoured form, purpose, and soul alike. The Titans recognized its danger, for it was not a thing that could be contained. It was the essence of destruction, the inevitable counterweight to their order. Some among them whispered that the Fel was not evil, merely necessary, a force that erased so that new life could rise. But to wield it was to court oblivion. Among the stars there came those who were not Titans, but who sought their power nonetheless. Mortals of lesser worlds, born fragile yet driven by boundless curiosity. In time, some among them discovered what lay beyond the arcane. A green fire that fed not upon life, but upon the soul itself. The Fel offered them everything the arcane denied. Power without balance, magic without restraint. And so it was that the first corruption began. Far from Azeroth, upon the radiant world of Argus, there lived the Iridar, a race of scholars and sorcerers. Their civilization glittered with crystal towers and floating citadels, their intellect unmatched among mortal kind. For millennia they lived in harmony, their leaders guiding them in pursuit of knowledge and enlightenment. Archimonde, Kil'jaeden, and Velen, the triumvirate, each of them wise, each of them bound by the vision of a perfect world. It was to these three that a visitor came. Sargeras, the fallen Titan. Once the champion of creation, Sargeras had waged war across the stars against the demonic entities of the twisting Nether. He had imprisoned the Nathresim, slain legions of corrupted beings, and guarded the universe from dissolution. But over endless eons, his resolve broke. He saw in the demons' endless hunger a reflection of a truth too terrible to bear. That order could never last, that all creation was doomed to decay and madness. In despair, he turned from the pantheon and embraced the chaos he once fought. Gathering the demons he had once destroyed, he forged them into a single vast army, the Burning Legion. Their mission was simple: to cleanse the universe in fire so that it might be remade pure and perfect. When Sargeras beheld the Iridar, he saw in them not just potential, but destiny. Appearing to the triumvirate, he offered them gifts beyond imagining: immortality, strength, and knowledge of the Fel. To Archimonde and Kil'jaeden, it was salvation. They accepted, and in an instant, their flesh turned to flame, their spirits bound to Sargeras' will. Only Velen saw the truth, granted visions by the Naru, beings of pure light. He foresaw the Eredar transformed into monstrous demons, their radiant world reduced to ash, their people enslaved to the Legion's hunger. Gathering those who would follow him, Velen fled Argus aboard a great vessel of light. Those exiles would become the Draenei, the exiled ones, forever hunted by their corrupted kin. The Eredar, now the Man'ari, the unnatural, became generals of the Burning Legion. Worlds fell before their fury. Fellstorms swept across the stars, consuming everything in green flame. Those who survived became slaves. Those who resisted were obliterated. The Legion grew, and with every conquest, so too did the number of those tempted by the power of the Fel. The Fel cannot create, but it can corrupt. And corruption is often mistaken for rebirth. Millennia later, upon a distant world called Draenor, that lesson would be learned again. Draenor was a place of beauty and balance. Vast forests, crystalline rivers, mountains wreathed in mists. And its people, the Orcs, lived in harmony with the elemental spirits of their world. They were a proud and noble race, their clans bound by honor and tradition. Their shamans communed with fire, earth, water, and air, keeping the balance between the physical and spiritual realms. But balance is fragile, and ambition is never silent for long. Among the Orcs was a shaman named Gul'dan, small, twisted, and filled with resentment. Rejected by his clan, he wandered alone, consumed by bitterness. When he called upon the elements, they denied him. The spirits turned away, their silence echoing louder than thunder. In that silence, another voice spoke. It promised him power. It promised him vengeance. That voice belonged to Gul'dan, the deceiver, who sought to extend the Legion's reach into new worlds. Through dreams and visions, he offered Gul'dan the gift of the Fel. Strength beyond measure, command over demons, mastery over death itself. All that was required was obedience. And so Gul'dan knelt. The Fel entered him, twisting his body, burning his eyes, and filling his veins with liquid flame. His shamanic connection to the elements was severed forever. In its place came dominion over darker forces. Demons, shadows, and flame that could not be extinguished. He became the first Warlock of Draenor. Under Gul'dan's guidance, Gul'dan gathered others. Shamans disillusioned with the spirits. Warriors craving strength, chieftains hungering for conquest. He formed the Shadow Council, a secret cabal that would guide all the Orcish clans. Their purpose? To unite Draenor under one banner and prepare it for the Legion's coming. But Orcs are not easily bound by secrecy alone. They needed a symbol, a promise of invincibility. In a ritual of unholy communion, Gul'dan sent forth one of his lieutenants, the Pit Lord Manaroth. His blood, boiling with Fel energy, was offered to the Orcs. Gul'dan promised it would make them unstoppable, and so they drank. The change was immediate. Their skin darkened, their eyes burned with green fire, and their bloodlust became insatiable. The elements screamed as the Fel spread across the land, twisting nature itself. Once lush forests blackened. The wind grew bitter. Draenor began to die. Empowered by Fel, the Orcs turned upon the Draenei, the last remnants of Velen's people who had fled Argus ages before. Villages were razed, cities were crushed under infernal fire. The Draenei were slaughtered or enslaved, their sacred temples defiled. Gul'dan watched in satisfaction as Draenor burned, but Gul'dan hungered for more. Power is never enough for those who serve the Fel. It is a hunger that deepens even as it is fed. When Gul'dan demanded Draenor's armies be turned toward other worlds, Gul'dan obeyed. Guided by demonic instruction, he began constructing the first great portal, a colossal gate of stone, bone, and blood. The energy required tore at the fabric of Draenor's reality. It opened a wound between worlds, a bridge from Draenor to Azeroth. When the portal flared to life, its light seared the sky's emerald. The Orcish horde, now united under the puppet war chief Blackhand, but truly ruled by Gul'dan, poured through. They descended upon Azeroth like a storm. Thus began the First War. Warlocks stood among the orcs as commanders and executioners, wielding magics that defied imagination. They called infernals from the heavens, each one a living meteor of stone and flame. They unleashed shadow bolts that burned through flesh and steel alike. Their power was absolute, and yet their control was never their own. The horde ravaged the kingdoms of men. Stormwind fell, its king slain, its survivors scattered. The demons watched from the nether, whispering, feeding, waiting. But the fell always consumes its wielders. The more Gul'dan drew upon it, the more it devoured him. In the end, his ambition outgrew even his loyalty to Gul'dan. While the horde warred upon Azeroth, Gul'dan sought a power beyond even the Legion's reach. The tomb of Sargeras, a relic of the fallen Titan himself. It was his undoing. When he opened the tomb, seeking the secrets of the Dark Titan, the demons within tore him apart. His soul was consumed, his body scattered among the ruins. Yet even death could not extinguish his legacy. His apprentices, his writings, his rituals, all endured. The Shadow Council survived. And as the Horde was defeated and the dark portal sealed, a new shadow began to take root in Azeroth itself. The fall of Gul'dan did not extinguish the Fel. It merely scattered its embers across worlds. In the silence that followed the First War, those embers drifted, unseen, into the cracks of mortal ambition. The Fel never dies. It waits. After the Second War, when the Horde lay broken and Draenor itself shuddered on the brink of collapse, the surviving orcs found themselves severed from the Legion's will. Without demon blood to feed upon, they weakened, their once vivid flames dimmed to embers of shame. Yet among them, there remained a handful who still whispered Gul'dan's teachings. These warlocks hid in caves and ruins, tracing his sigils into the dust, trying to remember the words that once brought fire from the void. Some believed that through the Fel, they could regain their strength. Others sought only to understand the power that had undone them. On Azeroth, the victors of the war studied the wreckage left behind. In Dalaran, the Kirin Tor examined fragments of demonic runes burned into the very stones of the captured Dark Portal. Archmage Khadgar, who had watched Draenor die, warned that Fel energy could not be destroyed, only contained. But there were those who looked upon the green embers and saw possibility rather than peril. From this curiosity arose humanity's first hidden covens of warlocks. Beneath Stormwind, in the forgotten catacombs built during the reconstruction of the city, secret chambers glowed faintly with green fire. There, mages and scholars gathered to study the magic of their former enemies. They convinced themselves that by mastering Fel sorcery, they could prevent another invasion. They told no one of the demons they summoned, nor of the bargains they struck. To most of Azeroth, the practice of Fel was an abomination. The Church of the Holy Light declared it heresy. The Silver Hand hunted its practitioners as traitors to all living things. Yet in every generation, There were those who believed that knowledge, no matter how dark, should never be buried. They called themselves pragmatists, seekers of truth, guardians of balance. They became the first human warlocks. Their numbers grew slowly, fed by desperation each time the world trembled. During the rise of the Scourge, some warlocks were pressed into service by the Alliance. Their infernal flames turned against the undead. During the Third War, others fought beside the defenders of Lordaeron, tearing apart demons with their own kind of fire. Still more hid in the ruins of Dalaran, preserving forbidden tomes even as the city burned. When the Legion returned through the dark portal once more, Azeroth learned that no fire burns forever contained. The shattered remains of Draenor, now known as Outland, became a beacon of fell energy visible even across the Great Dark. Heroes stepped through the reopened gateway to confront the demons who had survived Gul'dan's fall. Among those who crossed were warlocks seeking redemption, drawn by rumors that the Black Temple itself still pulsed with unspent power. In Outland they found the broken world split by rivers of molten energy, where fell storms rolled across barren skies. The warlocks studied its scars, realizing that Draenor's destruction had not been a singular event, but an ongoing wound in reality. A gateway between the twisting Nether and the mortal plane. Some concluded that the Legion had never truly left. It was here that the first formal brotherhood of Azerothian warlocks was born, the Council of the Black Harvest. Founded by 6 of the most accomplished warlocks of their age, Kirillin the Soulbinder, Zelifrax Wobblepox, Shinfel Blightsworn, Canrithad Ebenlock, Ritson Flamescowl, and Jubeka Shadowbreaker. The Council sought not to serve demons, but to master their secrets. They declared that warlocks should stand apart from the petty rivalries of Horde and Alliance, united by knowledge alone. In their teachings, destruction was not evil, but an element of existence. As the light heals and the shadow conceals, so too must the fell unmake, clearing the path for renewal. They trained apprentices in secret across Azeroth, beneath the mage quarter of Stormwind, in the dark alleys of Orgrimmar, within forgotten Draenei ruins on Azure Mist. Still, the fell demanded vigilance. Many who joined the council were consumed by the very powers they sought to command. The strong endured, the wise survived. And in time, their discipline made them invaluable. When Deathwing's cataclysm reshaped the world, it was the council who stood ready to contain the eruptions of raw nether that threatened to consume entire regions. They siphoned demonic energy from rifts, bound wayward infernals, and used their knowledge to maintain the fragile equilibrium that held Azeroth together. Even so, the world continued to turn toward chaos. From Pandaria's hidden lands to the shattered remnants of Draenor reborn, fell energy surfaced wherever mortals reached beyond their limits. The Legion's grasp tightened again, and when the sky above the broken isles split open to reveal the burning world of Argus, the truth became clear. The Legion had never been defeated, merely delayed. During this final invasion, warlocks took to the field not as servants, but as equals among heroes. Under the banners of the Council of the Black Harvest, they wielded fell against its source, channeling infernal fire into weapons that burned the very demons who had once bestowed it. Their efforts were instrumental in the campaign of Legionfall and the assault upon Argus. Through their mastery of demonic gateways, entire armies of mortals were transported across worlds. Through their conjured flames, the Legion's citadels fell. Canrithad Ebenlock, once tempted to corruption, returned purified. guiding his peers to fight without surrendering their souls. Jubeka Shadowbreaker perfected the art of binding demons without sacrifice. For the first time since the Eredar's fall, fell power was used not for domination, but for balance. When Sargeras was at last imprisoned and the burning legion shattered, the cosmos fell silent. The Warlocks of Azeroth, those who had survived countless invasions, found themselves adrift in an age without their ancient foe. Some feared that without an enemy to fight, the fell within them would turn inward. Others believed their purpose had just begun. In the years that followed, the practice of fell magic became a quiet craft once more. The council dissolved into secrecy, its members scattered across the world. Some took apprentices in hidden sanctums, preserving knowledge for the day it would again be needed. Others walked away entirely, seeking peace in solitude. But the fell cannot be buried. Its echo remains in the stones of the Black Temple, in the charred bones of demons upon Argus, in the very air above the blasted lands. It hums in relics left behind, in crystals once filled with light, now veined with green fire. Those attuned to it can still hear its whisper, the promise that power is eternal, and that even the gods must one day burn. Warlocks endure because the world itself needs them. Where others see corruption, they see truth. The universe is a balance of creation and decay, and they walk the narrow path between. They know that every act of healing demands something be unmade. Every spark of order throws a longer shadow. And so, they bear the burden of destruction willingly, accepting damnation so that others might remain pure. Through every age, their names change, but their purpose does not. From the shamans of Draenor who first touched the fell, to the scholars of Stormwind who mapped its runes. From the demon hunters of Outland to the Council of the Black Harvest, they are united by a single truth. That power is never good or evil. It is only will. Today, when the world sleeps and the stars burn faintly above the ruins of the Legion, a few solitary figures still practice the old rites. In a cave outside Shadowmoon Valley, an orc lights a single candle of green flame, whispering Gul'dan's name with both reverence and sorrow. In the catacombs of Stormwind, a human scribe copies an ancient grimoire, sealing it within lead so that no light may touch it again. And across the sea, on the drifting isle of the Netherlight, a Draenei priest studies the same energy that once destroyed her home, seeking to understand what her ancestors once fled. Fell fire is eternal. It burns wherever ambition meets despair, wherever knowledge demands a price. It is the memory of chaos, the unending reminder that even in a world of light, shadows are necessary. The Warlocks understand this, and they endure. They have become historians of destruction, archivists of forbidden memory. They do not seek redemption, for they know there is none. They seek only understanding, and in that pursuit, they find peace. The fell still burns, in ruins, in relics, and in the hearts of those who dare to wield it. It flickers in the silence between heartbeats, in the glint of green behind closed eyes, in the dreams of those who once whispered the names of demons. If you have walked this path, you know its weight. You know the scent of ash, the hum of power that never sleeps. You know that the flame can be tamed but never quenched. And so, to you who listen in the quiet hours, who let the rhythm of history lull you into rest, remember, the Warlock's story is not one of evil or glory. It is a story of consequence. Every spell has its echo. Every light casts a shadow. Every shadow remembers its flame. The fell still burns, and through it, the memory of all who came before endures. If you have walked the path of the Warlock with us, leave your mark below and listen for the next tale from Azeroth's dark history. For in the end, every legend begins in shadow. The fell still burns, and through it, the memory of all who came before endures. Yet history, like magic, does not rest. In the ages following the Legion's fall, the echoes of Warlock power continued to shape the course of mortal fate. Though the world believed the demons gone, the twisting nether never truly sleeps. When the Black Temple stood silent, its halls deserted after Illidan's defeat, few dared to walk among its broken stones. But some who did were warlocks seeking answers. They studied the sigils carved into the temple's obsidian pillars, tracing their origins back to the earliest Iridar glyphs of Argus. There they learned that Illidan's mastery over the Fell had not been reckless, as many claimed, but deliberate. He had consumed demonic essence, not to join the Legion, but to defy it, to wield chaos against chaos. To the surviving members of the Council of the Black Harvest, this revelation became doctrine. They came to believe that Illidan Stormrage had walked the truest form of their path, to embrace the Fell without surrendering to it. They called this ideal measured damnation. It was a philosophy of restraint through willpower, of walking into the flame while keeping one's soul intact. From this idea arose new generations of practitioners who saw themselves not as destroyers, but as custodians of equilibrium. Warlocks travelled to Outland, now fractured into drifting isles of stone, its sky glowing with endless emerald storms. In the shattered peaks of Shadowmoon Valley and the quiet wastes of Nagrand, they built sanctuaries of study. They catalogued what remained of demonic species, their hierarchies, their contracts, their weaknesses. They learned to bind Fel guards not with blood oaths, but with runes of balanced exchange, a technique first tested by Jubika Shadowbreaker herself. Meanwhile, Azeroth changed once more. The cataclysm sundered continents, awakening ancient powers long buried beneath the earth. The world's ley lines twisted, bringing arcane instability unseen since the War of the Ancients. Amid that turbulence, Fel energies found new channels to seep through. Volcanoes bled green fire. Corrupted elementals roamed desolate fields. Warlocks were called, quietly, reluctantly, by leaders who had once condemned them. In the wake of Deathwing's fall, even the Kirin Tor admitted that their understanding of the Fel was incomplete. They allowed certain warlocks to consult within Dalaran's lower archives, transcribing Gul'dan's fragmented grimoires under strict supervision. For the first time since the Second War, dialogue replaced fear. But peace never endures long on Azeroth. When Garrosh Hellscream opened another dark portal, this one reaching into an alternate Draenor untouched by the Legion, the cycle began anew. Warlocks who crossed that threshold found a world both familiar and alien. Orcs, uncorrupted by demon blood, yet still haunted by the same temptations. Some among them tried to prevent that Draenor's fall. Others sought to learn from it. They watched as Gul'dan's counterpart, still alive in that timeline, repeated the ancient mistake, inviting the Fel once more. It was a grim reminder that corruption is not bound by time. As the Iron Horde fell and Draenor shattered again into dust, those who survived carried home shards of its memory, crystals pulsing faintly with green light. The Council of the Black Harvest preserved them as relics of caution. Each shard, when held to the ear, hummed with whispers from the nether, echoes of every spell ever cast, every bargain ever struck. The Warlocks recorded these voices, creating what would later be called the Codex Netheric, a vast archive of demonic knowledge stored in hidden sanctums beneath both Stormwind and Orgrimmar. The years that followed brought the Legion's final return. When the sky split and Argus appeared above Azeroth, the green wound in heaven cast light across oceans. Mortals trembled, warlocks prepared. They knew this would be the culmination of everything their art had taught them. For the first time since the Eredar's corruption, warlocks from every race stood together. Orc, human, forsaken, troll, elf. They formed a secret coalition under the sigil of the Black Harvest and pledged to end the Legion by its own means. Their rituals opened gateways across worlds. Felguards fought beside paladins. Infernals rained upon demons rather than cities. Each spell cast in that war consumed something of the caster, years of life, fragments of soul. But the Warlocks accepted the price. When the army of the light marched upon Argus, it was through Warlock portals that they travelled. When the Titan Sargeras was at last imprisoned, it was the combined energy of arcane, light, and fel that bound him. Thus, even in victory, the universe remained balanced by contradiction. In the quiet that followed, many expected the art of the warlock to fade, without demons to fight or the legion to oppose. What purpose could destruction serve? But the fel is not sustained by conflict alone. It is sustained by need. And need never disappears. Across Azeroth, warlocks adapted. They became scholars of entropy, studying the slow decay of magic itself. Some observed how the ley lines scarred by fel storms began to heal, forming new patterns that defied known arcane geometry. Others examined how corrupted souls could be cleansed without annihilation, refining techniques that blended shadow and flame into harmony. The most ambitious among them sought to map the boundaries of the twisting neither. Using enchanted spheres and demonic familiars as guides, they charted pockets of reality where time fractured and magic rewrote itself. They discovered that each casting of fel energy left a permanent mark upon the neither's fabric, an indelible scar connecting every warlock who had ever lived. In those echoes, they heard the distant murmurs of Gul'dan, of Gul'dan, of Sargeras himself. Knowledge became communion. Communion became vigilance. The Black Harvest reconvened in secret during this era, no longer as a war council, but as an order of historians. They swore to record every interaction between mortals and the fel, so that future generations might understand its nature without succumbing to it. Ritz and Flamescowl led the effort, claiming that ignorance had always been the true enemy. Under his guidance, the council established hidden libraries protected by binding wards. One lay beneath the sands of Silithus, sealed near the wound left by Sargeras' sword. Another rested within the ruins of Karajan, its shelves whispering faintly whenever a candle guttered. Though centuries may pass without mention of their names, the warlocks continue their work. Some train successors quietly within mage academies under the guise of theoretical thaumaturgy. Others wander alone, serving as advisors to rulers who suspect but do not acknowledge their presence. A few act as keepers of dangerous relics, shattered infernal cores, dormant demonic hearts, and the soulstones of forgotten heroes. Each bears their burden in silence, understanding that to be a warlock is to exist where praise and condemnation are meaningless. In the far corners of the world, new threats arise. void cults, elemental upheavals, whispers from the deep places of the cosmos. And once again, the Warlocks listen. They hear in those voices the same patterns, the same entropy that binds all power. Some suspect that even after Sargeras' imprisonment, fragments of his will drift through the nether, searching for hosts. The Warlocks prepare for that day, knowing that if another shadow falls, it will be they who stand between worlds once more. Yet not all tales end in fire. There are moments, quiet, unrecorded, when a Warlock sets down their staff and watches the dawn. In that faint light, the green glow of their eyes fades for a heartbeat. They feel the weight of centuries pressing upon them. The memory of every spell, every scream, every flame. In those moments, they remember that they too are mortal. That even destruction serves a purpose beyond itself. Some say that on certain nights, when Azeroth's two moons align and the air hums with unseen energy, a soft green aurora drifts across the sky. To most, it is merely light. But to those who know, it is a reminder, the Fel's quiet promise that nothing is ever truly gone. Every end is a beginning, every ruin fertile ground for rebirth. And so the Warlocks keep vigil. They do not seek monuments or temples. Their legacy lies in balance maintained, in disasters averted before they begin. They are the universe's unacknowledged custodians, the ones who burn so others may rest in calm. Fel fire is eternal. It whispers through history, like wind through ruins, soft yet unyielding. It binds together all who have ever dared to touch it, from the Eredar who first fell to the mortals who still listen. Its lesson is both simple and profound, that creation demands destruction, that order depends upon chaos, and that even the smallest spark can illuminate infinity. The Warlocks understand this. They live their entire lives at the edge of that truth, balancing between salvation and ruin. To some they are villains, to others necessary evils. To themselves they are simply witnesses, recorders of the universe's oldest rhythm. The Fel still burns, in ruins, in relics, and in hearts that refuse to forget. It lingers in the silence after every battle, in the warmth of every hearth that once consumed flame. And as long as one Warlock remains to speak the old words, to summon the green fire and hold it steady in trembling hands, the legacy will continue. So sleep now, traveller of Azeroth. Let the embers fade behind your eyes. Know that even as dreams take you, there are those who keep watch, guardians of the forbidden flame, keepers of balance, masters of the nether. For in the end, every legend begins, and every legend returns to shadow.